잘하는 수식어가 많이 붙었는데 영호를 이기고 우승해서 수식어가 떨어졌으면 좋겠고.
명훈이 형 같은 장점은 정말 자기가 짜온 대로 게임이 풀려가면 정말 모든 상대를 다 이길 수 있는 그런 능력을 가지고 있고,
영호의 장점은 눈치가 빠른 게 제일 장점인 것 같아요.
단점이라고 한다면 또 거기서 어긋나면 또 반대로 역으로 질 때가 있어요.
단점은 약간 그런 것들 때문에 좀 자기 자신의 플레이를 한 가지만 좀 고집하는 그런 게 좀 있는 것 같아요.
정명훈 선수는 이어봤기 때문에 아마도 이영호 선수가 낫지 않나 싶어요.
명훈이 형보다 아무래도 영무 형이 나를 이기고 우승을 해야 더 멋있어 보여서 저를 지목했다고 생각해요.
제 생각에는 영호 상대를 더 쉬워서 그렇게 말하는 것 같아요. 편해서. 저번 결승전 때 3대2로 되게 힘들게 저를 꺾고 우승해서 저가 무서워서 그런 말 했던 것 같아요.
마지막이라 해서 큰 의미는 두지 않고 저는 모든 경기에 정말 필사적으로 하기 때문에
이 정도 상대는 꺾어줘야 3회 연속 결승 가는데 그런 자격이 있다 생각하고.
내가 그동안에 테란 계보를 이어왔기 때문에.
스타리그는 테란 선배님이 요한이 형이 시작했다고 할 수 있는데 스타리그 마무리는 T1 테란에서 정명훈이 할 수 있도록
최근에 좀 뜬금패를 많이 한다든지 그런 모습 보여드려서
그만큼 제가 더 잘해진 것도 있고.
스타리그에서 처음 붙는데 그래도 항상 내가 이겨왔으니까 이번에도 내가 이길게. 미안해 영훈이 형.
다른 것들 다 제쳐두고 스타리그에만 집중하고 있는 상태고 저는 자신 있기 때문에.
가시나 별명은 아무나 얻을 수 있는 게 아니에요.
케빈 스타리그 2012 4강 이영호 대 정명훈.
이영호 대 정명훈. Woo! Flash versus Fantasy. Look at that crowd in the studio. They are all pumped up. We are pumped up. The booth girl is pumped up in her head. It's alright. She's pumped up on the inside, but she's gotta keep the calm, cool look, you know? Anyway, Flash's stats. 14-3 versus Terran. I actually don't know. Is that like over the last season or something? Over this OSL?
스타리그 우승자 3명이 나란히 좀 샌다는 거죠. 네, 이영호 선수 우승하고 그다음에 정명훈 선수,
Whatever it is, he's God, alright? It doesn't matter what the stats are, he's God. And this man is a terrorist. If he is a terrorist who has a mastermind behind him, he's a mastermind himself, but the mastermind behind the mastermind is none other than I Love Ooh. Let's see what crazy TBT strategy he came up with here to take down Flash. Of course, he did help Fantasy with that, those amazing strategies that took down Stork so easily in an OSL. 3-0ing Stork with like some sick fast Goliath builds against Protoss, which is awesome, and I hope we see something similarly crazy today. But Flash, you know, even though Fantasy has overtaken Flash in ELO, I think most people still think Flash is #1 for sure. And Jangdi himself even said that he wants to play against Flash in the finals. He wants to take down God in the last brutal OSL ever. Until 2052, that is. But we'll dwell on that later. Look at that. Look at those wins. Just a couple of losses in Pro League, but otherwise, Fantasy's been owning it up. Now, interestingly, I want to talk about Flash though for a second. Flash actually has lost the last 2 TBT Brutal games that he played in Pro League. So I'm a little bit concerned. I'm a little bit confused. You know, Flash, he lost against Reality and he lost against Bogus. Reality's okay at TBT, and apparently he just bunker rushed, or he just proxy racks Flash. But against Bogus, he played a long game, and Bogus is terrible at TBT, and yet Flash still lost. So I'm just thinking, I'm like, what has Flash been doing? What is Flash thinking? I don't know. Maybe he's just hiding his super secret strats or something. Maybe he was just trying to fake out Fantasy, pretend like he's all really bad at TBT now, and so Fantasy will like look at those games and be like, oh yeah, Flash, he's pretty chill, but alright, I got this in the bag. But no, Flash, I'm sure he'll be fine. Anyway, we're seeing all these lovely statistics on screen that I do not know what they mean, or rather, I don't know what time frame they're from. 2012? Alright, so from November 26 and on or something? I don't know what this means. And apparently Fantasy also lost his last 2 TBTs. Huh. against C and Classic. Alright, so C's, but well, I guess C and Classic though are both okay at TVT though.
그렇기 때문에
But that's very
자,
interesting.
이 다전제에서 대결이 뭐 태태전이고 두 선수보다 워낙 기량이 좋기 때문에 쉽게 장담할 수 없어요. 하지만 무게가 무겁습니다. 정말
Are these? Oh, these might be like their overall win rates on the maps or something for each set.
역대 최강의
Actually, that doesn't make
계속
sense.
기억에 남는 것이 아니라 부르도 최후의 1위 될 수 있는 기회를 맞이했거든요.
그렇죠. 예, 근데 뭐 지금
Win rate per set.
등장했었던 데이터에
Okay.
따른다면 5경기를
They got some crazy stats. Too bad I don't know what any of them mean. LOL.
예, 그런 느낌이 좀 드는 데이터였고.
That's how you get to be the number one commentator.
예.
Don't know anything.
테란과 테란 이런 거를 떠나가지고 종종 통틀어서 1위하고 2위가 지금 막.
Anyway, Flash looks surprisingly bored here. He actually looked really bored in the van on the way here. He was like playing Angry Birds on his phone in the KT bus or something. Okay, I don't actually know if he was playing Angry Birds, but he was like on his phone or something in the bus, like not really caring about anything. He seems super calm about this. I don't know if he's just confident or what, but I mean, Flash has so much experience playing in these, you know, high stakes matches that I'm sure like he just doesn't have nerve issues anymore. You know, playing in the OSL semifinals of the last brutal OSL ever, it's just like another day at the office for Flash. And I think Fantasy Similar has been playing in a lot of tense situations, although probably not quite as many as Flash. And oh yeah, I gotta remove that overlay. Yoink.
네, 그렇기 때문에 어쨌든 지난 4년 동안 정말 오랜
Jacket is
시간
off.
동안 테란의 양대 산맥을 이루었다는
Headphones
점에서,
are on.
분명히
Stargirl is
모든
ready.
어떤 그 최근까지 싸운 양 선수의 어떤 데이터를 봤을 때 분명히 이영호 선수가
Look at Flash, he's like
우선순위는
so
좀 많아요.
calm.
하지만
Oh man, if I was in that booth, I'd be shaking and stuff. Like, I'm shaking now because I got the nerve chills. I even got the butterflies in the stomach, man. I'm nervous for Flash. I'm nervous for Fantasy. I'm nervous for both of them. I want to see an amazing series, and I'm sure it will be. One and only one. Is that actually a picture of Flash? For a second there, it looked a little bit, I don't know, it looked like Stork or something. I was like, wait, why would Stork be on the sign there? Study good. Oh, I just heard the commentator be like, study good. Brutal. The last Warlord Star League. There is Kim Carrier on the left, who was even crying during the last semifinal, thinking how sad it is that this is the last Warlord Star League. But it is going to be an amazing one. We have an amazing semifinals match ahead of us. And of course, Kim Carrier actually requested that Jangbi go carriers against whoever comes out of this and goes to the finals. So that would be quite amusing if that happened.
이영호 선수의 헤드셋에 좀 약간의 문제가 있어서 그 부분을 좀 교체를 하고 있습니다. 그래서
Alright, so it looks like we're doing the pre-game amble,
헤드셋에 문제가 있어서 그 부분을
of which I have very little, because I'm terribly unprepared. I was of course playing an epic ladder game myself, so my ladder games are so much more awesome than OSL semifinals. God, that Battle.net ladder, man. I should know what they're talking about. 스타리그
이런 데 전적을 다 포함하는 겁니다. 근데 오직 스타리그,
오직 스타리그.
스타리그에서의 다승이 누구냐면 이묘한이에요. 83승을 기록했습니다. 근데 이영호가 79승이거든요. 그렇죠. 여기서 이영호 선수가 결승까지 82승으로 가게 되는 것이기 때문에 이 이묘한의 최고의 기록을 또 이영호 선수가 넘어설 수 있게 되는 거고, 참고로 3위는 송병구 78승, 4위는 홍진호 77승 이렇게 되고 있습니다.
크크크크크크크.
송병구, 홍진호는 이제 끝났고요. 이면 선수는 아직까지 탑입니다만 따라잡힐지. 그러니까 정명훈이 대선배 이면의 순수 스타리그 다승 기록을 지키기 위해서 이영호를 경기 중에 날려야겠네요.
그런데다가 사실상 테란 브루도어에서의
If this goes on for much longer, I'm gonna start trolling this interview and start making stuff up.
이런 느낌으로 얘기를 한다면 총나라 아마 이러면 이윤열이죠. 딱 이윤열이고. 근데 위나라가 실제 삼국지에서는 최종적으로 이제 승리를 거두었습니다만.
Alright, translation time.
만약에 여기서 이제 이영호가 정명훈을 탁 잡으면 내가 조조야 뭐 이렇게 될 수 있는 그림이긴 합니다만, 여기서 정명훈이 이영호를 딱
I can't see them talking though, so it's hard to scroll.
너는 오나라야 이렇게 되면서 위나라의 이묘한으로부터 시작해서 최초이자 최고였던 이묘한으로 시작해서 순간 포스 최고 괴물 최연성으로 이어지는 그 적통을 결국은 정명훈이 이끌고
Go!
마무리
Start!
최후로 천하통일 딱 이렇게 되는 거거든요.
네. 힘의 관계를 본다면 이영호 선수가
So, Kim Carrier, what do you think about the match today? Who do you think will win?
뭐 문제가 있습니까? 싸워도 이기면 되는 거 아니에요? 지지 받아내면
Well, I think Flash will win at least one game here against Fantasy, and that means that the better question is not who will win the semifinal, but rather which star girl will faint first. Because, as you may know, Fantasy is the creator, the inventor of none other than the infamous Fantasy GG timing. And so when Flash is winning his game, I think Fantasy will try and make it as long a game as possible, perhaps bordering on the 4.5-hour mark. Oh, they're cheering. Are we starting? Yeah! Match 25:07. Woo! 이영호가 최근에 I wish I knew what any of this stuff means.
이건 정말 우려를 가리기가 힘들 정도로 박빙이고요. 그런 만큼 다전제에서의 오늘의 경기는 정말 예측할 수 없고 끝까지 가는 혈전이 펼쳐질 것 같습니다. 그렇습니다. 자, 가겠습니다. 경기 보자.
Oh yeah, going into the game, set number 1 on ground 0. Ladies and gentlemen, it has begun. And so it begins. Spawning as... Hold on, let me let them do their cheers.
자, 정말 열기가 뜨겁다.
하나, 둘, 셋, 정현훈 화이팅! Woo! Look at his Flash hands off the keyboard. Do you guys see that? Flash's hands are off the keyboard. He's like, OSL semifinal? Yeah, easy peasy. Easy peasy. He totally just let go of the keyboard there. Oh man, like, look mom, no hands! No hands! I'm gonna beat Fantasy, no hands! Freaking Flash. Look, now Fantasy looks nervous. Now he's nervous. I think he looked over, he saw Flash wasn't, like, had both his hands off his keyboard. He's like, oh my god, what is he doing? What is he doing? What's going on? But anyway, I think, yeah, Flash is going to be blue Terran top left, Fantasy will be white Terran in the bottom left. We have vertical spawns here on ground 0. In the previous incarnation of this map, that could have led to some really interesting games with fast drops and stuff, but now the natural is no longer flippable, so I guess that would be less common. Is that, I don't know, that was a question. So like, Flash, will you have my babies? Or something. Anyway, looks like Gosu Depot placed by Flash there. Gonna help the SCV mining at his bottom mineral patches be slightly more efficient there. Just fix the SCV pathing, because otherwise the SCVs, when they return those minerals, they swing around really wide along the right side. But if you look at that depot placement, it's forcing the SCVs to go straight to the command center from the bottom patches diagonally. So that's quite nice. Meanwhile, no barracks yet from Flash. But I think... No, I think that's... Well, I think it's a normal time though. You can still put it now. Or is he going to command center first? Wait a minute. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh! Flash! Where would a Flash best of 5 be without a 14 command center? Of course. Should have seen it coming. Fantasy should have just proxy racked him or something, because Flash is going 14 CC as always. The classic Flash build. Kim Carrier is doing something, I don't know, but look at this, look at his Fantasy. Okay, he built his barracks at the top of his ramp. He also checked the 9 o'clock base in case there was a proxy racks, because he knows that Flash really likes to go for just a single proxy barracks in TBT, just so he can punish any, you know, super greedy expander, which is kind of ironically what he's doing now. And also because he has like insanely good marine and SCV micro, so even if the other guy wasn't that greedy, he can still attack him. But look at this, Fantasy, upon seeing the 14 command center, immediately plants down his own command center. So content to just take a slightly slower expo, but of course since his barracks is finished and he's now taking his gas, his tech will be slightly ahead. But I don't know if this is the best response. I mean, I guess, you know, since he didn't even proxy his own barracks, he just built it in his base, there wasn't really much opportunity to put on a lot of pressure, and yeah, last Brood War champion! So I think this is probably a good response by Fantasy, just be like, well, you know, Flash probably will be able to hold off any kind of silly early Marines I send out, so I'll not try to do that. He's just sending out one Marine, but a bunker is already on the way for Flash. Might at best get this one SCV, although I don't think Flash would even let that happen. Oh, he's going after the Marine now, actually. Oh, Fantasy, is he going to save his SCV? Oh! The Marine runs into the bunker and snipes the SCV. Of course, bunkers add +1 range to Marines. So that SCV, like if the Marine just tried to chase the SCV, I think the SCV would have gotten away, but since he ran into the bunker, he actually managed to get that 1 extra range and snipe it down. So immediately Flash not only getting his 14 CC down, but also getting Fantasy SCV right off the bat. Nice start for Flash. And I mean, the thing is, in terms of actual, you know, actual overall damage, I guess measurable damage, it's not really that significant to Fantasy to just lose 1 SCV. I mean, he's being slightly behind, but oh god! Everything going wrong for Fantasy already here. The SCV scout of Flash does get into his base. Flash, meanwhile, we saw is throwing up 2 factories of his own. Actually, very quick. His second factory is faster than Fantasy's second factory. So this is going to be very interesting what happens. I mean, the timings are very, very close, though, so it shouldn't make a huge difference. But the thing is, okay, so even though the actual tangible damage, that's the word I was looking for, the actual tangible damage done to Fantasy so far is not that much. It's just, there's a lot of psychological stuff going on as well. It's just losing that first SCV there and not killing an SCV at Flashes. It's just like, you know, it's a little bit, I don't want to say embarrassing necessarily, but it definitely is going to throw Fantasy off a little bit, I think. But okay, whoa, Armory and Academy going down there. For a second I thought it was 2 academies just from the way it was clicking. But no, Armory and Academy. So gonna get some Goliaths, be safe against any kind of Cloak Wraith follow up here. But instead we're just seeing 1 starport and 2 factories with add-ons. Is Flash just going? I don't know. I feel like Flash is actually going for Wraiths here. It's a little bit fast for any kind of drop play, unless he's going to do some kind of, you know, fast vulture drops, getting double upgrades from those machine shops. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Let's actually see what's going on here. I don't like a tank drop doesn't really make any sense. I gotta say, it's gotta be either a double upgrade, fast double upgrade vulture drop, or just tanks and wraiths. Now, wraith tank is a very interesting unit composition. Of course, the two standard styles of TVT are either going Goliath tank plus dropship, which is the more common one, or you can actually go mass tanks and wraiths and use your wraiths as your mobile force, and you know, snipe drops and also provide spotting for your siege tanks. And it'll be cool if we actually see a clash of styles here. Of course, there are a few other random things you can do, like, you know, mass vultures off of 2 bases or something, but those are less common. And generally, by the end game, it's all transitioned into the standard, you know, Goliath tank, wraith shenanigans. So we do have the first Wraith out, no control tower, so he's just going to be making, you know, plain old Wraiths, no cloaking for them. And let's see how much damage he can do. I mean, Fantasy's already got the armor, he's probably going to have at least a couple of Goliaths out in time to deal with this. So yeah, he's already got 2 Goliaths, he's got 3 Marines, he'll be just fine. He's going to apply a little bit of pressure here. Already. Oh, no. I thought he was going to move out. Okay, he's going to see the Wraith with the barracks, so now he's actually going to move out. I was going to land that Wraith, or sorry, land the barracks rather. Of course, the Wraith does much more damage air to air rather than its ground attack, which does almost nothing. And now the Marines and Goliaths are moving out. Flash sees this, pulls his siege tanks back a little bit, realizes he doesn't actually want to take this head on. And Fantasy, meanwhile, is actually up to 4 factories here, whereas Flash staying on his 2 factories and 1 starport and immediately taking a 3rd base. Now that base is a mineral only, which is generally less useful in a TVT. In TVT, the primary resource you're looking for is gas. Goliaths, tanks, dropships, wraiths, they all cost a ton of gas, whereas the minerals are really not very useful. Marines aren't going to do much, and vultures, they're kind of useful just as a harassing unit and just kind of to tank shots, but usually you won't be investing your factory production time into too many vultures. This is very interesting from Flash. Be taking this early command center. Of course, what this does also allow, though, the other thing you can spend minerals on is getting very fast, or more command centers rather, and that is something you see often in TVT. Once it goes to the mid and late game, since both players are generally bank a lot of minerals and have a lot of gas left over, they just expand like crazy. But this is very interesting that I don't know if Fantasy is aware of this. The thing is, Fantasy has 2 comp sets right now, so he can scan around and kind of get a sense of what Flash is doing. So if he senses, like, if he sees this fast third, and he sees that Flash is still on 2 factories against his 4, I feel like he should be trying to put on some pressure here, but it's so hard to attack into a tank line. Like, look at that beautifully positioned tank line there for Flash. Like, it's so difficult to attack into that. And so I don't really know what Fantasy could even do to try and kind of punish Flash for his greedy play. It looks like he's just massing on more units. He's drawn kind of, the lines have been drawn here. Flash is a little bit further back. Fantasy's kind of holding the ground in between the bases. And it looks like, I think that was an SCV just moving ahead there to check what's going on. Interestingly, Fantasy actually places 1 Goliath in between their naturals right now, presumably just to spot for dropships, intercept any dropships that are incoming, and that's a very smart move, because if you look at their army positioning, Fantasy's army is much further away from his natural compared to Flash. See, if Fantasy drops Flash, most of Flash's units are actually still near his natural, so he can actually quite easily pull back some units to help defend. However, for Fantasy, Fantasy's units are much further forward away from his natural. If you actually look at his natural, wow! Amazing timing scan there from Flash. Oh my god, that was insane. But yeah, back to my original point. Fantasy army is much further away, so he needs to be well aware of any drops incoming, because if he gets dropped in his main right now, his army is so far away that he could take a lot of damage. But this Wraith, is he going to get the SCV? No, doesn't get the SCV. That would have been a huge kill, actually, to kill that SCV. That would delay the command center like quite a bit. But now, now Flash sees Fantasy taking that 9 o'clock. Now, even though that third base of Fantasy is a lot slower than Flash's third base, it is a gas base, and I think it has more mineral patches as well, or at least more value on the mineral patches. So it looks like Flash, sneaking a dropship around the top right. There is something at the top right main there. It's probably a Vulture from Fantasy. Fantasy actually just laying some spider mines on the right side there just to see if Flash tries to move out there and maybe snipe a couple of tanks if Flash isn't careful. That'd be quite nice, of course. Fantasy known for having a good Vulture play. And as you can see, he is actually making a lot of Vultures here. Even though I said earlier on that, primarily want those gas units, Fantasy, the terrorist, is going to keep up the Vulture production. And they are useful for laying mines, of course, and just to run in and tank the initial siege tank damage. But it looks like, oh man, Fantasy was so close to seeing that drop. I don't know if he actually senses that this drop is coming or something. Look at this. His Vultures are constantly moving around here, making sure that nothing is going on. But unfortunately for him, he's not going to see this. Now, what is in here? Is it going to be a 4 Goliath drop? Is it going to be Vultures? And it looks like one dropship actually going to the natural now. Flash going to do a double drop here. There is a Wraith to intercept, but I think the payload will be dropped anyway, though. The Wraith not going to kill the dropship fast enough. 3 of the Vultures will get out. Presumably 1 Vulture still remaining. But now the Vultures going into the main base, killing a lot of SCVs here. But Fantasy, with great defense, is bringing his Vultures back in time. He's going to lose a number of SCVs, but I think he definitely, definitely defended that well. Had good reaction time there, pulling the Vultures back in time. Of course, Vultures are pretty speedy anyway, but this is so interesting that Flash is actually the one doing this aggressive drop play, and Fantasy's the one defending. I mean, stylistically, it's actually the opposite. Fantasy is usually considered to be the much more harassy player, whereas Flash is just known for his, rock-solid defense. So this is a little bit backwards right now, and now Flash is actually moving around the side, just completely ignoring that tank line in the middle here, going to go for an attack on Fantasy's natural, it looks like, and now he's sieging up here, but it looks like Fantasy does reposition his units in time, and will stop this. So looking a little bit nervous there, but now Fantasy, he's mining away happily at the 9 o'clock base. He has added on a couple of Wraiths. He's now getting a control tower, presumably just for dropships. But look at this, Flash actually getting some Valkyries mixed into his composition. Now Valkyries, of course, very strong against mass Wraiths, since they stack so much, and the Wraiths are generally quite low, quite flimsy, quite fragile. Meanwhile, now that Flash has actually pushed back Fantasy's army a little bit, he's now taking the top right base, and whoa, looks like a bit of an attack going on here. Flash moving in with the Vultures and tanks, allowing the Vultures to tank some damage for his own siege tanks, but look at this, Fantasy just coming out with his own Vultures as well, but whoa, oh, he's actually running right through. Fantasy actually just runs his Vultures through the tank line here to go just attack some SCVs, I think. Now Flash pulling back his Wraiths to deal with this. Meanwhile, more Vultures going to the top right base. There are a couple of Vultures as Flash here to see it. He's going to snipe the SCV. Is he? No, doesn't quite get the SCV. And the thing is, Fantasy, I think, having killed this SCV, might not even realize the top right base is there. I don't know if he scanned it. He might have actually scanned it already, but if he didn't, then seeing that SCV there, he might just assume that the SCV is going to try to build the command center at the natural instead of the main, and assume that there's no base there. So is he mining with like 5 SCVs on that gas? It looks like it. That's a bit, that's not so good. But oh, look at this, another drop going in here. Vulture's going to stop that command center from finishing. The Wraiths trying to pick off this dropship, but no, all the Vultures do get out, and Flash is just doing some great harassment here. I almost feel like I'm casting this back. I'm like super nervous I'm casting this backwards because, I mean, if I looked at this game without anybody telling me who the players were, I would have said that blue was Fantasy and white was Flash. But actually it's the complete opposite. And well, look at this. Fantasy is not gonna just sit there idly while Flash harasses him. All he likes. Fantasy now going for his own counter harass. He's saying, "Hold on a minute, Flash. I'm the terrorist. My vultures are the ones that everybody is scared of." He was sending those in, but unfortunately for him, there were no SCVs transferred just yet, so he's really not going to be able to do any damage here. But crucially, he did see the top right natural was taken as well, so he sees Flash, you know, just mass expanding to the top right. But I'm not really sure what he can do about it because he's like 30 supply behind right now. He's at 132 to supply to Flash's 163. You know, despite getting that good position earlier on, Flash just with good harassment and just really aggressive pushing with his tanks is really putting the hurt on Fantasy. Look at this, Vulture's going in once again. Still, Fantasy still unable to finish this command center. So Fantasy's still sitting on his 3 gas bases, whereas Flash is going up to 5 bases almost. Of course, his top right bases aren't mining yet, but I mean, Fantasy's got to make something happen here. And yet, you know, if you just look at the minimap, you just look at the positioning. I mean, TBT is such a positional game. A lot of times, you know, a 20 or 30 supply difference doesn't even matter if your tanks, if you're like holding all the crucial locations on the map, because siege tanks are so good defensively that, you know, they can overcome a slight unit disadvantage. But it looks like Fantasy is now the one who's pushing back, and Flash actually didn't have nearly enough tanks here. Fantasy with a great surround with his vultures and laying spider mines there, picking off those few siege tanks. Fantasy with a huge tank advantage at that area of the map. But is he going to go for it? He actually scans. He sees there's not many units. He's moving forward. That's a lot of tanks. Flash might have spread himself a little bit too thin here, and that's a problem. You know, on the one hand, it's a balance. On the one hand, you want to grab as much territory as possible, just trying to claim as much of the map as you possibly can. But on the other hand, if you spread yourself too thin, and your opponent kind of focuses his forces in one area and just like a blitzkrieg on, you know, one area of your tank line, then you can easily just lose immediately, just because you can't hold the attack. So Flash's got to be a little bit careful. He's laying a lot of defensive spider mines here. But now the tank lines are really, really weird. Oh my god, the SCV's transferring into siege tanks! Whoa! Good reaction by Flash to save those, but he did take a huge shot on those SCVs. And the supply counts, I mean, still slightly in favor of Flash, but it's still anyone's game at this point. There's just so much maneuvering and positioning the army going on here. I'm not even sure really who has the positional advantage. Like, Fantasy's army is making like a weird line kind of containing Flash, but Flash has units outside the contain. This is just so weird right now. I think Fantasy's actually managed to push back Flash and has retaken this good position, but Flash has like a rogue group of units kind of sitting in the middle there. As you can see right here, this small group of units, there's only one siege tank though, but now Vultures are moving in. They're going to try and kill some of these SCVs. Now there are SCVs to kill. Looks like 2 Vultures. Very, very nice move by Fantasy. Hold positioning 2 Vultures on the ramp to block Flash's Vultures. Of course, there is a mischance shooting uphill, and of course, Vultures don't even kill other Vultures that quickly, so very nice job leaving those there so they can kill some more SCVs. Unfortunately, it looks like he didn't actually quite properly target down SCVs. But Fantasy is now expanding to the bottom right there. A Vulture of Flash right next to it. Doesn't quite see it. If Flash's Vulture was like 2 hexes lower, he would actually deny that base for a little while longer. But now Flash is actually almost maxed out here, and now he's going for an attack. He's going to try and break this tank line. The tank line is a little bit out of position. It's like, oh man, he was kind of containing Flash onto the left, if that makes sense. Like, his line was vertical, but Flash actually managed to hit it from both sides using those reinforcements from the side. Managed to crush the leading tanks, but Fantasy coming in with a lot of reinforcements, and actually Fantasy now taking the supply lead. Flash was almost maxed. Fantasy was like at 160 supply, but now they're both at about 150-ish supply. It's very, very close right now. Looks like +1 attack done for Flash. Fantasy going in for a drop, but Flash, look at this, aggressively expanding, taking the 9 o'clock base again. But can he defend this drop? There he goes. 1 Vulture, 2 Vultures dropped in the natural. The other 2 probably going to go into the main base here. And Flash now might be in a little bit of trouble. Even though he's taking the 9 o'clock, I think he's got something at the bottom right natural there as well. If that's a command center, that would be absolutely insane. And it looks like it might be, in fact. But now the Vulture's going in, denying him his mining. The Valkyries going in. They will kill the dropship, but unfortunately Valkyries do not shoot. They do not shoot down, so those Vultures will be safe. It looks like Flash did bring in a few siege tanks to help out, but this is the legendary Vulture harass of Fantasy, ladies and gentlemen, and that has actually pulled him ahead in supply. Fantasy now at 174 supply against the 154 supply of Flash. Flash, who had a pretty dominant position there, suddenly found the tables turned due to this great Vulture harass. Still Vultures here, just, you know, denying mining at the expo, killing more SCVs. Flash, though, going in with 3 dropships. I don't know if he's dropping just to secure the space, or if he's just trying to go for a counter drop. If he's going for a counter drop, he shouldn't go there. He should wait for the Vultures die. Okay, no, he's just doing a drop to defend himself, because actually Fantasy is is the one who's got a better position on the map. If you look at the mini-map, Fantasy is kind of drawn a line there, dividing Flash, or separating Flash from his top right bases, so he can't defend them properly. But look at this, Flash did make a command center at the bottom right. Flash is crazy. Flash is expanding everywhere. This can't be a good idea. I mean, look at this, the Vulture's just going to come in here easily and just take down all those SCVs. It looks like, though, that Vulture did deny that command center of Fantasy, so Fantasy actually, it's not like he actually has that much mining of his own. But I mean, this is just such a waste of resources by Flash to just be aggressively expanding and losing SCVs. I mean, if you can't defend these bases, I mean, you know, in TVT, expanding aggressively is fine, is common because you have so many extra minerals usually, but not at this excessive rate, and to just throw away these SCVs as well, it's just a waste. It's not efficient. It's not a good use of his money. And look at this, Fantasy now is banking almost 3,000 minerals. He's expanding a lot more conservatively than Flash is, but I think it's paying off for him because he's still keeping up his supply. The supplies are still about even. He's got a better position on the map, and he hasn't thrown away, tens of SCVs for no good reason. Flash, though, is loading up a big drop. Where is he going to go? Is he going to try and break the tank line of Fantasy? One very good technique for breaking tank lines is to go in with a big ground force and a big air and a lot of units loaded in dropships as well, and kind of drop all over your opponent's army while you go in with the ground force, kind of carpet bomb them with units. But in this case, it looks like he's just doing a defensive drop here to defend this base because Fantasy is moving in with his ground force, using that ground position he has outside Flash's main to kind of block any ground reinforcements, forcing Flash to use his dropships defensively rather than aggressively. But look at this, Flash actually did send in a big drop to the bottom right and is now denying Fantasy's bottom right expo there, and it's actually secured the expo of his own. So I mean, I was partially wrong. Fantasy did clear out the 9 o'clock base, but Flash is now securing the bottom right base, and he actually just floated the command center from the 9 o'clock down there, I think. So if he can secure that position, that would be really, really good for him. Even if Fantasy has the entire map, the middle of the map is not what's not as important. The important parts are the expansions, the resources on the map. So there's no point holding the middle of the map if your opponent has all the expos. And we actually saw something very much like this last season in Pro League in a long TVT, a cool TVT between, I think, Baby and Bogus, where Baby did something very similar, just very quickly establishing position on the bottom right main there. Similar to what Flash is doing here, and just being like, well, even if you have map control, I'm just going to use my dropships to fly around your contains, defend my expos, and I'm just going to, have the resource advantage going into late game. But it looks like Fantasy is going to have none of it. He's going in here, but that is a solid tank line. This is so risky. Nice defense matrix on the lead tank. Beautiful move by Fantasy. Getting that one science vessel, that's a pretty big investment to get a science vessel in a TVT, because that is those are very gas-heavy units. But that defense matrix, though, allows you to do really nice tank breaks like this. Just defense matrix in the first tank, tanking all the initial shots from Flash's siege tanks, and it looks like he will break this position. But Flash, meanwhile, looks like just going to suicide some SCVs here. Just try and kill some of these tanks, kill them with their own splash. It looks like it is somewhat effective, but 3-2 upgrades already for Fantasy. I'm not sure what Flash's upgrades are at, actually. I'll try to pay attention to that next time. But it looks like now the tables have turned once again. Now Flash is the one with a big supply lead. 184 supply for him against just 147 for Fantasy. Such a back and forth game, but it looks like Fantasy is going to take out this command center. He's actually transitioned into mass rates right now, but look at this, a big drop going down into the bottom right. If those rates could have intercepted the dropships, that would have been huge, but it looks like the rates are just a second too slow. But the rates are actually coming in here. If he doesn't drop, he could be in trouble. He needs to drop before the rates get there. Oh man, but the rates are actually cloaked. The rates are cloaked. Can he snipe some of these dropships? No, he doesn't quite get there in time. Oh man. If that was if those rates were 30 seconds, or not even 30, if those rates were 10 seconds earlier, that could have been a game changer right there to snipe all of those dropships that were full. That would have been amazing. But oh, he's gonna get them on the return. He's gonna get them on the return path. He's gonna kill 6 dropships of Flash. There's the scan. Gonna try and take them down, but there it is. Doesn't even get a single wraith. Oh no, gets a single wraith. But that was a huge blow to Flash, because Flash, that was the only way he was getting around on the map. Fantasy has the middle of the map. Flash cannot walk around on ground. He had to use the dropships to transport his forces around. So now, with all the dropships gone, he has absolutely no way to reinforce his position. So if Fantasy commits to taking out this position, Flash cannot save it. He'll just have to forfeit all of those units. However, he did already drop a good number of units there. He has established a solid position. He's on the high ground there. It'll be very difficult for Fantasy to actually attack that. So it looks like Fantasy is just going to ignore it. Fantasy is going to go attack the top right base instead, and for some reason that 9 o'clock base is still there. I don't know if Fantasy just wasn't aware that Flash somehow snuck it in. I don't know if that's actually just a base or if it's just some random units there or something, but whatever it is, I mean, Fantasy, he's really got to make more use of having this middle ground here. He can't just let Flash hold on to these expansions while he just flies around. It looks like, oh, he's going in with the race, going to snipe a dropship, and back up in the supply. Both players now at 180 supply again. This is absolutely ridiculous here. The race flying around, trying to snipe more free units here. They are so mobile compared to the the Goliath tank force that Flash has. But I mean, Fantasy, if you look at the expansions on the map, even though Fantasy has the middle, Flash just has the entire outer ring. He has all the bases. I don't understand this. I mean, okay, looks like this is actually not a base, it's just an established position, but this is such a good move. I think strategically, Flash is actually playing this beautifully. He's like, okay, Fantasy is really aggressively taking position in the middle, but position in the middle doesn't really... The point of taking position in the middle is so that you can expand aggressively behind it. Like, that's why, when you go for an early contain, you can, take a fast base behind it or things like that. But, I mean, if you're taking the middle and not taking the expos, that's kind of pointless. And now Fantasy is going and attacking the 9 o'clock base, doing another nice defense matrix siege tank there, but look at this, it's just the defensive positions of these tanks are just so good. Flash is, he's just got a handful of tanks there, he's forcing Fantasy to commit his entire tank force almost to taking it out, and he's still managing to kill a good number of siege tanks before he goes down there, just being super cost efficient there with his units, and still a few Goliaths remaining. It looks like Fantasy having taken that out. Ooh, gonna get a couple more dropships here. Man, these raids have absolutely paid for themselves now, and even will be able to fly around and kill some SCVs if he wants to. But the problem is, Fantasy, he's still not expanding though. Fantasy is still on his original 4 bases, and he's got to be getting mined out soon. I mean, one of those bases isn't even a gas base, so, I mean, resource-wise, I'm feeling very nervous for Fantasy. The only thing is, oh no, losing some of these raids. The only thing is, he does have 3,000 minerals banked, because, he was being a lot more efficient than Flash in that mid-game, so at least he does have a bit of bank, but I'm still just thinking like he needs another gas base. He desperately needs a gas expansion right now, but he really cannot take one. The 9 o'clock has some Goliaths there. I think he's going to go clear them out and maybe take that one, but see, the bottom right natural, even though he has established position there, Flash has tanks on the high ground in the main, so he actually just can't mine from there because Flash can just siege it from the high ground. Meanwhile, it looks like Fantasy poking in here, just can't get anything done. It looks like the tanks will finally clear out this expo, so I think Fantasy, he has an SCV there, probably just gonna clear out a command center right there. Oh, he's actually got a command center already. I think he was, I think that command center was intended for the bottom right natural, but since Flash has got position there, he's just gonna float over to the 9 o'clock, and that's the correct thing to do. And now Flash once again ahead on the supply, but only about 20 supply. Both players now banking about 2,000 minerals. And Fantasy's math rate switch was pretty cool, but he did lose a good number of rates there. It doesn't look like he's reproducing them. And as I said, I think that's because his gas is just so low, his gas income. But it looks like, oh, gonna lay some mines here, be a little bit cute. And oh, he's actually going for an attack here on this expo. Oh, he might intercept some dropships. Ooh, barely not intercepting those dropships. Those I'm pretty sure are full. That would have been huge. It looks like Flash is going to try a counter drop on the 9 o'clock, but he's going to run headlong into some wraiths. If he does that, that could be really bad for Flash. But presumably he will be careful. He will scan first. I hope he scans first. The thing is, once you get to the late game TBT, you actually have so many command centers with comsats that you can afford to just constantly scan all over the place. If you're going for a drop, scan first. If you want to go break a tank line, scan it, see how many units he has. If you want to check expos, you just scan them. You don't need to worry about doing fancy Vulture Scouts or anything like that. You basically have almost infinite energy. I think Day9 actually said once, it's like playing late game TBT, it's like you might as well give your opponent vision, because anything that he wants to see, he will see it with a scan. So it's like playing with map hacks almost. Anyway, Fantasy is going to siege down this position, deny that expo. But the thing is, again, this is so crucial. That's a mineral-only expansion. There is no gas at this expansion. And it's so funny because, the last incarnation of this map, the version of this map that they used last season in Pro League, oh wow, Flash actually looks like he has too many dropships. He's killing some of his own dropships. He has like a control group of dropships there. Wow, he has way too many dropships. Alright. But the thing is, like last season, this map, those expansions of the 12 and the 6, they did actually have gas geysers there. I think they were less than full value. They were only 1,500 each, but they were still gas geysers, but now they're mineral only. So it's a very significant change here in the way that this map is played, as we're already seeing in this first game. And it looks like Fantasy now pushing towards the top right once again. I think he's got to be so careful though, because Flash still has a lot of dropships left, and he can still do a big carpet bomb on all these tanks. Fantasy does not have a lot of supporting units here. I'm a little bit nervous about this position, but I mean, Fantasy knows he's got to make something happen here, because Flash has established himself in the 3 corners of the map. But it looks like, oh my god, Flash is going to go for a huge huge counter drop here. There's a lot of turrets in the way, though. It's going to be very, very dangerous. He's sending in the barracks first to try and tank some of the turret fire. Is he going to go? He's going to go. He's going to make a run for the main. He's running the gauntlet here. All the turrets were focusing on the barracks. Fantasy changes targets in the last second, but it's not in time. And Fantasy's army is completely out of position. He's bringing as many units back as he can. But this is going to be a huge drop on the main base. He gets one of the drops, but there it is. Flash going for the Doom drop on the main base. But oh my god, Fantasy's killing everything, and Flash, the drop was not nearly as effective as it should have been. And now the Wraiths are coming back. Oh my god, the Wraiths are coming back. Fantasy, he's going to kill all the dropships. He cloaks. Flash just has to drop now at the mineral only. That's not the best position to drop. He's just going to have to siege up, but Flash loses everything. The drop is a complete failure. What should have been a success, what should have ended the game right there, turned into disaster for Flash. Oh my god, I can't believe it went so poorly. Flash has shocked himself. He can't believe it. You can see it on his face. He knows he's in huge trouble now. He's lost his entire dropship fleet. His entire army was in that drop, and it is gone now. There's no more army. Fantasy now rolling out with his siege tanks. There's only a paltry handful of siege tanks to defend the top right base. Fantasy didn't even bring all his units back to defend. He kept his position at the front. Flash is reproducing as fast as he possibly can, but he lost so much gas there. He's got 3,000 minerals banked, but he's got only 400 gas. He cannot afford to reproduce that huge, expensive army that he lost there. He's trying to catch up on supply. He's back up to 160 supply, to the 170 supply of Fantasy. He's not out of it yet, but that was a huge loss here. Fantasy looked like he was in a lot of trouble in this game just due to how the resources were going. And oh my god, Flash is losing more dropships. No, Flash losing another 3 dropships with units in them. Only 1 tank and 1 Goliath get out there. Fantasy doing an absolutely amazing job with these Wraiths. Oh man, Lita needs to watch this game and learn how to use cloaked Wraiths, man. This is a beautiful game from Fantasy. And Flash, I don't know what he can do now. He's lost all those dropships. He's lost his mobility. As I said earlier on, he was relying on those dropships to transport his units around, and Fantasy, he knew it. He picked up on it. He was like, okay, I have the middle of the map. You know, Flash, this is the only way he can move around. So with the Cloaked Wraith switch, he's just completely denying Flash any chance of moving around. And look at his mass turrets as well to just help. So now even if his Wraiths aren't in position, those turrets will help take down some of those dropships. And as I said earlier, the minerals are less important in this matchup. And here we go, Fantasy moving into this Expo. Flash is bringing the SCVs. He needs to hold. He loses so many SCVs, and he just doesn't have enough siege tanks here. Flash is going to lose the top right Expos, and there's no way for him to reinforce either. There's so many turrets in the way. The Wraiths, I can see on the minimap, are patrolling around, ready to snipe those dropships wherever they go. Fantasy, oh my god, I think Fantasy's going to intercept the dropships. Fantasy's going to intercept the dropships on the minimap. Oh no! Flash, he has to drop. Oh my god, Flash, once again getting completely caught here. He doesn't even have enough Goliaths to take down the Wraiths. No, it looks like he will at least keep his units alive, but Fantasy once again intercepting Flash's drop attempt. But look at this, Flash with enough units to actually push through towards Fantasy's natural here, and Fantasy actually also lost a good number of Wraiths chasing down those dropships. So Fantasy down to just like 2 Wraiths. The supplies are still ridiculously close. 133 supply against 137 right now, and Fantasy losing all but 1 of the Wraiths, but coming out with some reinforcements will be able to clean up this attack. And now he's taking down Flash's top right natural there. Flash now on the top right main. I'm trying to see how much mining is left for both players. Flash is the top right main and the bottom right main. But Fantasy, I don't understand how Fantasy's still got money. Okay, actually Fantasy did take the 9 o'clock earlier, so that's his primary source of income right now. He's still got the bottom 6 o'clock mineral only, but that's it's not as useful. And the thing is, Flash still has a lot of minerals banked. He can still afford to remake those command centers. Even though he's losing a lot of SCVs, he can still afford to remake them. But look at this. Oh man, Flash is just trying to defend with like 1 siege tank here. 1 siege tank, and SCVs are not going to hold this off. Trying to do a mass repair, but that's not going to do anything. Finally, able to bring in some dropships. Looks like they just, you know, flew over the turrets. He just had to bring in some units to defend this base. He needs to hold on to this base. If he loses his base, he'll be down to just the bottom right expansion, and no way he's going to be able to send any reinforcements down there. And Fantasy will just have complete map control, and will be able to take that command center down, that expansion rather, down at his leisure. Flash really needs to hold on to this base. It is still so close here. It looks like wait, is that Flash's command center? Flash actually built a command center there. I guess he was trying to retake that natural there, but that's not going to happen. He actually needs to cancel that. I hope he cancels that in time. And now the dropship's actually just going to fly back into the turrets. Oh my god, this is not what you need, Flash! No, Flash! Flash is losing the dropships again. Oh my god, looks like more dropships heading out from the bottom right. Going to run into another turret. Actually, wait a minute, do they have units in them? Where did those even come from? Looks like they actually might have units. Where are they? No, wait. What is he doing with these? I don't even know if these have units in them. Looks like he's going towards the main, though. Yeah, he's going for the drop in the main. Fantasy realizes this. There's a scan, and there's a drop in the main. Flash with a random drop coming from the bottom right. I don't even know where that came from, how that got there, how it got here. But this drop could actually be hugely effective because now he's attacking the infrastructure of Fantasy. But, oh god, losing the dropship once again. Flash must have lost like 50 dropships this game. I can't believe it. This is probably the most dropships I've ever seen lost in a single game. But look at this. He's still got an okay-ish position here. A very cost-efficient setup there. So if Fantasy tries to break that, he'll have to commit quite a few forces. And look at this. He's taking down the infrastructure. This is so crucial. Fantasy, now it's going to be difficult for him to reproduce. He's going to lose these machine shops. Won't be able to remake siege tanks from those factories. And Flash, with a great position there, is also making it very difficult for Fantasy to actually get rid of these units in his base. They're basically taking advantage of his own main base against him. But there's the mass cloak raids! Oh my god, there's only 3 Goliaths here. He can actually just take down all the anti-air and clean it up for free. Oh wow, great move by Fantasy there. He had enough raids. There were only 3 Goliaths, and that's actually going to mean he's going to kill the last 4 tanks there for free. Flash now reduced to just mining from an off-location command center because he can't actually hold the proper position there. He can only mine the gas. He only needed the gas because he had a lot of minerals banked, but actually his mineral bank is fading away now. He's down to less than 1,000 minerals. Flash, who was up at 3,000 minerals banked, is down to less than 1,000 minerals. Both players at exactly 1/16 supply right now. I just can't believe how unbelievably close this game is. This game, 3 more dropships moving in to the top right base. Flash, can he retake this expansion here? He's down to just the bottom right base mining, but I think both players essentially on one base mining. Fantasy mining off the 9 o'clock, Flash mining off the bottom right. I mean, Fantasy, his mineral only looks like it's actually getting dry as well. But the thing is, Flash, he's got no mineral income right now. Flash has 0 mineral income. Or, sorry, no, he's got the bottom right base. What am I talking about? But he's got no mineral income from this top right base. And this looks like it's going to get taken down shortly as well. And the thing is, this position was actually like allowing him position into the rest of the map as well. Like his dropships were going from the main to this base and then outwards from there, like sneaking around the right side. I think that's how those dropships got out earlier. But this is looking very, very dire for Flash. Look at this little hold-up outpost. This is like you know, there's like a zombie outbreak. Like Fantasy's the zombie outbreak, and Flash is like holed up there in that corner of the base, just trying to gather what little resources he can, and while holding off the zombies. Oh man. And looks like Fantasy now trying to take down this position, using the science vessel to give vision. Flash's tanks did not have vision there. And using that defense matrix very, very well, being so efficient. And look at that! Even though Flash had the 2 tanks on the high ground, Fantasy took it down without losing a single tank there. Oh my god, dropships though, going into the main, there's Goliaths right there! Oh no, Flash! Flash flew into them, but it looks like Fantasy revealed the race a little bit too early. He didn't wait for them to fly into the Goliath, or it would have been even better, but oh god, Flash losing everything to siege tanks on the high ground. GG! Fantasy taking game number 1 there. Flash types out after an unbelievably epic TVT. Oh my god, that was just game number 1, ladies and gentlemen. We have a potential 4 more games to come. What a ridiculous TVT. How long was that game? I don't even know. But wow, Flash, look, he did not look pleased about that. I mean, I think at some points in that game he was absolutely in a great position. I mean, just strategically, you know, he gave up position in the middle of the map in order to secure those expansions. It was a good idea from him. Resource-wise, he should have been ahead, and yet Fantasy just intercepting so many of those dropships, and Flash just throwing away drops left and right, and was able to pull it back and force his way back into the game. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Oh. I cannot believe it, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1 of the OSL semifinals between Flash and Fantasy. This is a best of 5.